Good evening and welcome to Athens City Council. It's Monday, August 20th at 7 p.m. and tonight we're in regular session. Our first item of business before establishing the quorum is to amend the agenda, and we need to have a motion to appoint an acting clerk of council tonight. And I believe we have an agreement, or the motion could include the information that Sarah Grace is willing to serve as acting clerk. Could I have a motion?
I so move.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion from Jeff Reisner and a second from Councilmember Sam Crowell to appoint Sarah tonight, Councilmember Grace, as the acting clerk of council. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The motion carries. And we are in the midst of establishing our quorum tonight. We do have two council members who are not able to be with us this evening. And so I will give a brief explanation right now on how that's going to alter our format just a little bit tonight. We do have ordinances that we will be reading. And in the case where we have ordinances that have an emergency clause, which 8818 you will notice does, we can suspend and vote to approve that if it has an emergency clause. And we can suspend and vote with 5 members present, which we have tonight. However, there were several other ordinances that we were thinking we were going to suspend tonight. We will not be doing that because they do not have emergency clauses, and that would need 6 members. And we don't have the 6 council members here. So just a little bit of a variation. Next item of business is to dispose of the minutes, to approve them, and this is for the regular session held on August 6th, 2018. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Motion to approve by Crowell and a second by Councilmember Reisner. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The motion carries. We now have time for communications. Are there any items from council members that you wish to communicate? Yes, it's Councilmember Katsas.
President Nisley, thank you. At this moment, I would like to mention that this coming Thursday, August 23rd at 6:30 p.m. At the Athens High School, that will be the August board meeting for the Athens City School District.
Okay, thank you.
What time?
I'm sorry, 6:30 p.m.
Thank you.
Okay, and any other communications? Okay, we'll move to reports and communications from other elected officials. Law Director Eliason. No. Mayor Patterson.
The only update that I have, President Nisley, is I think I've mentioned this in the past, but worth noting, the Athens street improvements, the paving that's going on currently. I believe the Columbus Road bike path spur was paved today and will be opening, if not open already, opening ASAP. The Armitage Road paving was also supposed to be underway today. I did not drive out to look at that, but just as an update. And then for West Union, this is an important one. They were out milling today, and possibly some more milling tomorrow, and then starting the paving, with hopefully being completed by the 23rd, which is Thursday. And that's also important because, as council is well aware, as am I, that we have a large influx of students coming into the city, which has already begun, by the way. But the big move-in date is typically over this coming weekend. The other thing worth mentioning, speaking of which, is there will be High Street will be one way during the move-in. This is to help out with the move-in at Bromley Hall, which, again, there tends to be a large number of students moving into that facility. So it will be one way northbound. So it'll be one way going up the hill as opposed to it typically being two-way. Mm-hmm. So just for people to be aware of that, that will be coming. Thank you. You're welcome.
We'll now move to ordinances for third reading. We have one of those tonight, and that's 8418. An ordinance authorizing construction and construction engineering services for the Richland Avenue Pedestrian Passageway Project number 311. This is introduced by Councilmember Katsas.
President Nisley, thank you. At this moment, I would like to make a motion to adopt 8418.
Second.
And just going back over this, we've had a lot of conversation about this project, which is the Richland Avenue pedestrian passageway. And so this is the above ground passageway that will be running from Porter Hall over to West Green. And total cost on this project is anticipated to be almost $3.5 million. And this ordinance is basically allowing the engineer to put this out to bid. So going out at this time would allow us to get a competitive bid for this project, and hopefully we'll see this actually get bidded out on the first try. I wanted to also mention that at this time, because of the Transportation Alternatives Program, the City of Athens has secured over half of that amount, over $1.8 million for this project. And the university, recognizing that this is important to their campus, we're anticipating, this is in the ordinance, that the city anticipates receiving $400,000 from Ohio University. I just wanted to give a little bit of background and history, well, personal history, because when I was in school in the late 80s and early 90s, I used to travel from Bentley Hall down to Porter Hall, and you used to see all the sidewalks just completely filled with students. And you just don't see that anymore. And due to the fact that the university shifted their buildings and built Baker down at the south end of Court Street, that changed the traffic patterns for pedestrians. So that's why we're here today. This is a project that's much needed, and one could argue that the university created this situation and they should take care of it. But really, this is our street, and I don't think there's ever been any discussion that the city wants to give up any right of way. So this is something that I'm in support of. I also want to mention that this is something that kind of goes in line with what our not only this administration but previous administrations have looked at. To me, this is a complete street project. I think a lot of times when people hear me speak about complete streets, they think of bike lanes, and they think that that's what a complete street looks like. A complete street looks like many. It can be completely different, and it really just speaks to the usage of that right of way, at that area. So looking at the improved bus stops and really addressing the movement of pedestrian traffic through this area, I think that this is a much needed project.
All right. We have a motion and second for approval of this ordinance, and now take comments from council members and then administration.
Thank you, President Isley, and thank you, Councilmember Katsas, for the presentation there. I just want to express my support as well, too, because I believe that safety is paramount, and this particular intersection necessitates that. It's been looked at and explored, and this is another example of the city and university working closely together to do its best. Thank you.
Okay. Any other council members with comments or questions? Councilmember Eisner.
I'll just comment that I'm in support of this. I think it's a good idea and it's long overdue.
Okay. And I know Mayor Patterson, I think you wanted to speak briefly on this.
I just wanted to add that the city will continue to look for other granting mechanisms to help augment the city's share in this project. One in particular is a Transportation Improvement District grant, which can be a match of up to, it could be 25% match. That means the grant could be 25% of whatever the cost is, and then the city would pick up the other 75%, as we would anyway. But with this, it also includes up to $250,000. So given the remainder of the budget, as Member Katsas was talking about, or the cost of this project, we will apply in the early spring for a Transportation Improvement District grant to see if we can start weaving together other granting mechanisms, and we'll continue to look at some. A Transportation Improvement District grant is for economic impact. It's for high economic areas, and I would contend, as would the Service Safety Director, that the Richland Avenue corridor is a major corridor into the uptown area, but it's one that often during class changes and other times when you see a large number of pedestrians crossing through there, that one might decide to go another way to where they're going. And so this would help with that as well, to deconflict this particular area on Richland Avenue, as Member Katsas was saying. That's one of the primary reasons for this, is to deconflict and to create a complete street. I agree 100% with what Member Katsas was saying, is that complete streets, take all different forms. And this is a great example of kind of an alternative version of a complete street, where it's disentangling a large volume of vehicular traffic as well as pedestrian and bicycle traffic through this area. So I too believe this is a well-founded and well-thought-through project.
Great. Okay, thank you for the comments. And any comments or questions from the audience? If not, then we'll proceed with the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The motion carries and the ordinance is approved. We now have an ordinance for a second reading. This is Ordinance 8818, and this is one of the ones that I described earlier. It does have an emergency clause, and we will be suspending. And we do have one other correction. Our notes indicate that Councilmember Katsas was introducing this. It was actually Councilmember McGee that introduced this on the first reading. And tonight, Councilmember Crowell will be serving in Councilmember McGee's stead to introduce the legislation.
I'm sorry, just one more point too.
Yes.
I will be abstaining from all voting on this issue.
Thank you. So this is 8818 is an ordinance authorizing the mayor to submit an application to participate in the state capital improvement and or local transportation improvement program for issue 1 funds, to execute contracts as required, and declaring an emergency. And tonight, Councilmember Crowell will speak for Councilmember McGee.
Thank you, President Nisley. I would like to suspend the rules for 08818. However, without Member Katsas being able to vote, do we have the number of votes necessary to suspend the rules?
We do not. So thank you, good point. So we will not be able to suspend. So we're just going to have read this for the second time tonight. Thank you very much. All right, we'll move on to Ordinance 9318, and this is an ordinance declaring vehicles no longer needed for a municipal purpose, and is introduced by Councilmember Butler. And then we'll have ordinances for first reading. 9418 is an ordinance authorizing the mayor to execute a mutual aid agreement between the City of Athens and Hocking College for law enforcement assistance, and is introduced by Councilmember Butler.
Thank you, President Nisley. Quite briefly, I'll just address this. We did discuss this at length during committee meeting. Just a friendly reminder that this is very similar to the type of memorandum that we have with the police department at Ohio University. So the two of these they mimic each other. This mutual aid agreement, council members have received information regarding this and have been able to look over it on the drive.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. And any other comments or questions at this point? This is just the first reading. Okay. Ordinance 9518 is an ordinance authorizing the Service Safety Director to enter into an LPA state project agreement with the Ohio Department of Transportation for sign replacement on U.S. State Routes 33 and 50 and State Route 682, and declaring an emergency. And this ordinance is introduced. We do have a minor correction here by Councilmember Katsas.
President Nisley, thank you. We discussed this at committee, and really this is very straightforward. This is just an LPA state project agreement in order for ODOT to do some work on some signage that is within the city limits. Once again, the state will assume 100% of all the costs, and this, even though it does have an emergency clause, there's no need for suspension because we have plenty of time.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments or questions on this one? All right, we'll move on to Ordinance 9616. And this is an ordinance authorizing the Service Safety Director to enter into a memorandum of agreement with Drive, Ohio, and is introduced by Councilmember Katsas.
Thank you. And we spoke again also last week at committee about this. This is the self-driving transit cars. It would be a transportation loop that is still being talked about within the city of Athens, and Drive Ohio, being a new department underneath ODOT, is looking for test cities. This is merely going forward and saying that the city of Athens has an interest in participating in the program. If we were selected and details were hashed out, we will have a whole new set of legislation to look at to make a decision if this is something that we want to participate in.
Okay, good. All right, any other comments or questions on this one? Yes, Mayor Patterson.
I just would like to mention that the Director for Engineering and Public Works, Robert Hetty, and I are going to be going up to Marysville this Wednesday for the Drive Ohio Alliance. There's a meeting up in Marysville to discuss Drive Ohio and kind of the rules of engagement as this rolls forward. So more to follow on what we learn at that meeting.
Good. Okay. Thank you. We'll move on to Ordinance 9718. This is an ordinance designating the Stuart McDonald Building located at 21 North Schaefer Street as a local historic designation. And Councilmember Grace will be speaking for this for Councilmember Fall tonight. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, President Nisley. This just designates the Stuart McDonald Building on Stuart Street, or Schaefer Street, here in Athens as a historical designation, and this is at the recommendation of the Historic Preservation Commission. Here,
okay, thank you. Mm-hmm. Any other comments or questions on this ordinance? All right. Ordinance 9818 is an ordinance affirming the mayor's execution of an agreement with the Athens City Fraternal Order of Police, Ohio Labor Council, Inc., and the City of Athens Police and Lieutenants concerning wages and working conditions. This is introduced by the Finance and Personnel Committee.
Thank you, Madam President. The working title here pretty much covers everything that this ordinance cares to do. Unless the mayor has anything further to add to inform council about it, I have to consider it read.
Okay. So it's a new working contract to begin January 1, 2018, and council members did receive a copy of this contract from the Human Resources Director this afternoon, I believe. So we have a copy for our examination. Thank you. Ordinance 9918 is an ordinance amending the 2018 appropriation ordinance and is introduced by Councilmember Reisner.
Thank you, Madam President. What this ordinance has to do with is our payments that the city generates to the Bureau of Workmen's Compensation. We collect certain amounts of monies, and they are sent to the Bureau of Workmen's Compensation, where they then keep it, and then as claims are made, they send out the checks for the claims. Occasionally, for whatever reason, they say that perhaps we've overpaid them to a certain extent. We're given a refund. And in this case, the refund amount is $267,780. The purpose of the ordinance is to appropriate and then encumber that said amount, which would then go into Fund 101-120, Transaction Code 300, upon receipt of the BWC rebate check. In addition, this ordinance will also give $2,000 or appropriate $2,000 to General Fund Auditor 101-102, Transaction Code 500 for land bank computer purchase, which will then be reimbursed and then increasing the appropriations by said amount. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any comments or questions? All right, we'll move on to a resolution for first reading. And the first one is 718, a resolution accepting the amounts and rates as determined by the Budget Commission, authorizing the necessary tax levies and certifying them to the county auditor. And this is introduced by Councilmember Reisner.
Thank you, Madam President. We all have copies of Resolution 0718. The Budget Commission for the city and county decides where certain portions of the county property tax monies go. In this case, since the city of Athens occupies most of Athens Township and a small portion of Canaan Township, the city becomes responsible for the upkeep of the roads, streets, and bridges that otherwise the county and trustees would have to take care of. So to reimburse our cost, the Budget Commission sets aside a certain sum and says this is what we believe is a fair amount to be paid from the property taxes that the county levies. For Athens Township, the amount approved by the Budget Commission is $916,528. For Canaan Township, the amount approved is $37,490, for a grand total of $954,018.
Okay. Thank you. Any other comments or questions? All right, we'll move on to the next ordinance, which is 818. This is the City of Athens strongly urges the Ohio Governor and members of the Ohio General Assembly to invest the state budget surplus in municipalities. And this is introduced by all council members. And do you want to speak to this, Councilmember Reisner, or do you want
I can give you my thoughts on it. I agree wholeheartedly with this resolution. I believe the state of Ohio's rainy day fund is more than flush, and if it's a rainy day fund for emergencies, then certainly the poor cities and other municipalities of the state of Ohio are definitely in a storm right now. We could use the money that they're busy taking away from us, and I'd like to have some of it back. And I'm urging, we are urging, that the governor and the legislature, instead of banking this and drawing interest on it and giving more tax breaks to those who really don't need it, actually spend it where it might do some good. So I would urge all members of council to approve this resolution.
And this is the state rainy day surplus fund is estimated to be at a $368 million total for the fiscal year ending. That'll be for next June 30. And our local funds have decreased, as it states in the resolution, where back in 2006, we were receiving $815,000 a year in local funds. We now, last year, only got $363,481. I believe also the mayor and both the mayor and myself will be also sending separate letters to Governor Kasich in regards to this as well, in support of and complementary to the resolution. Any other comments or questions?
Could I ask, is this a one reading resolution or a three?
I believe this is a three. It's got it for first reading.
Yes, I see that.
And it doesn't say one reading, so
too bad.
We'll need to go through the three. Okay. We now have announcements and other business. What I would like to hear is whether or not there will be specific committee meetings that we'll be needing to meet next week.
Finance personnel.
Okay.
Always.
Any others
like
that we're aware of? Transportation, you think? Okay. And we will be having a committee of the whole, at which point we will be having a presentation from the director of the Wayne National Forest, and then a separate presentation from some citizens interested in this who brought to our attention the Wayne National Forest Long-Range Plan that's to begin soon. So there will be presentations for that. And what's the other thing? And we may, in fact, given tonight's circumstances, be having then a special session at the beginning before the committee meetings, probably, where we read these ordinances, some of which were time sensitive and we were hoping to suspend tonight. And so we'll be needing to move them forward. Okay. And Councilmember Butler.
Thank you. I might have to lean on Scott for some help with this one. A friendly reminder that I believe we've been moved on the cable channels, and so maybe we can make an announcement to the public about which channels we're on now. Am I correct?
We're on 1024.
1024 is where to find us on Spectrum, correct?
Great.
1024.
Okay, good.
Formerly had been 5.
5, and 15, and 5, and now 1024.
1024.
Okay,
With all
good.
those trying to find us.
Thank you for noting that. And Mayor Patterson, did you have some announcements?
Not an announcement. I do want to go back to the possibility of a special session just to again remind council that in particular the application for the state capital improvement and local transportation improvement programs, it is a deadline of August 31st.
So we really do need to move this forward.
Yeah, we have to.
Okay, thank you. All right. Now, we do now have copies of the, moving on to one other item of business that we need to take care of. We have now received the auditor's July financial reports. And so I'd entertain a motion for approval of those.
So moved.
Second.
Okay. We have a motion and second for accepting the auditor's reports. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The motion carries, and the motion is approved. And we now have an opportunity for citizens to speak on legislative items and city services not covered on the agenda tonight. Is there anyone wishing to speak? They are entitled to 3 minutes. Okay. I don't see anybody saying that they will. Our next meeting will be on August 27th, next Monday night. And I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Good.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and second for adjourning. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. We are adjourned. Thank you so much.